undamaged and accessible to some sort of cultivation. And we are talking about 72% of the fishing fleet destroyed. And when it comes to issues related to health, we are talking about and protection. We are talking about 62% of people don't have access to legal documents proving property ownership, and at least 543 aid workers have been killed since October 2023. This is to prevent even providing aid for the targeted community. We talk about 373 UN staff and UNRWA, who also works with UNRWA and WHO, UNDP, UNOPS, and UNDSS, are killed. We are talking about 54 PRCS, Palestinian Red Crescent, and volunteers, including 29 of them while on duty, have been also killed. 4 ICRS, International Red Cross staff, have been targeted also. We are talking about the highest number among health workers. 1,722 health workers have been killed. 139 civil defense staff killed while on duty because they don't want, the Israeli army do not want people to be rescued. We are talking about 247 journalists and media workers also have been killed. Most of the hospitals are destroyed. And among the hospital, if we just look at the numbers, we see that 17 out of 36 hospitals have been targeted. 62%, 10 out of 16 field hospitals still, 10 out of 16 still functioning field hospital. The highest number of primary healthcare centers, we are talking about 38% only of primary healthcare centers are still functioning. So this is, and I will not, of course, talk about still, how water wells were destroyed, how, thirst and hunger is prevailing, malnutrition, the destruction of universities and schools, the killing of teachers, etc., etc. So how can we understand these numbers? Here, I will, focus on the main argument. As the siege and bombardment of Gaza continues at full force, killing hundreds each day, maiming many more, and wiping entire families out of the civil registry, the global conversation on the assault on Gaza is shifting towards the annexation of yet another part of historic Palestine by Israel, with countries around the world rushing not to prevent the injustice, but to ensure Palestinians made into refugees as a result won't end up coming their way. This time, the Nakba, or the second Nakba, is being televised, and it has a stench of finality to it. What is happening in Palestine can no longer be described as genocide or even ethnic cleansing. It is beyond mass extermination. It is total erasure. When I say total erasure, I will focus on the gender dimension of this erasure, irrespective of the demasculinization of Palestinian men. And when I say demasculinization, I mean the excessive practice of sexual rape of men in the Israeli prisons and in the detention centers, and in the field concentration camps within Gaza now. So this demasculation of Palestinian men through the excessive practice of raping and filming and reported it publicly, of course, to to break the dignity of Palestinian men in the eyes of their children and in the eyes, of course, of their men. The flagrant example is the death of Dr. Adnan al-Bursh, who have been killed in the Israeli prison last year. And one of his colleagues in the prison, he said that he was thrown in his room after excessive use of different tools of raping Dr. Al-Bursh. Same thing could be said on Palestinian women, the de-feminization of women and portraying them as having a corrupt womb, and these women as reproducers of terrorists. And that is why, targeting children and women is integral part of, or an important part of the erasure process I'm talking about. So the destruction of Gaza's healthcare system has been, as I said, catastrophic. And here we are talking about the destruction of facilities that are providing vital services for pregnant women. These attacks have decimated Gaza's already fragile healthcare system, including its maternity services. As of January 2025, emergency obstetric and newborn care is only available at 7 out of 18 partially functional hospitals across Gaza, 4 out of 11 field hospitals and community health centers. These resources are grossly insufficient for the estimated 50 to 55,000 pregnant women in Gaza, including 5,500 who are due to give birth imminently. In addition, the destruction of Gaza's largest IVF center in December, including 5,000 embryos, signals a calculated attack on Palestinian reproductive autonomy. The consequences of Israel's relentless attacks have been devastating for women and newborns in Gaza. UN experts reported a staggering 300% increase in miscarriage rates as of May this year, driven by stress, malnutrition, and the destruction of healthcare infrastructure. Women are forced to give birth in overcrowded shelters, lacking medical assistance, hygiene, and privacy. Emergency surgeries, including C-section, are often performed without anesthetic due to shortage, and doctors have reportedly needed to use mobile phone flashlights during surgeries due to lack of electricity. Premature births have been rising sharply, largely due to the lack of access to prenatal care and the extreme physical and psychological toll of the ongoing blockade and conflict. These dire conditions persist after childbirth. Similar to many women, I just mentioned some cases I have documented. Many women are discharged mere hours after delivery due to lack of resources, leading to life-threatening complications. Reports also indicate a rise in hysterectomies performed to manage uncontrolled postpartum bleeding. The neonatal mortality rate is also at an all-time high, with newborns dying at alarming rates due to the lack of electricity and fuel for incubators. Additionally, food poverty has reached crisis levels, with 95% of pregnant and breastfeeding women facing severe malnutrition. This crisis not only compromises their ability to breastfeed, but also prevent them from recovering adequately after childbirth, perpetuating a devastating cycle of poor maternal and child health. The blockade on Gaza exacerbates the crisis by depriving women of essential resources. Limited access to clean water, hygiene products, and medical supplies has led to infection, malnutrition, and deteriorating reproductive health. Women are often forced to make shift materials for menstrual hygiene, while some have resorted to taking tablets commonly prescribed for menstrual disorder in desperate attempts to suppress their menstrual cycles. Additionally, the extreme stress and food deprivation have disrupted menstrual cycles for many women. The lack of access to clean water and safe sanitation facilities has increased the risk of severe infections, including the spread of hepatitis B and thrush. Further compounding the already dire health situation, these challenges are particularly severe for adolescent girls, elderly women, and women with disabilities who encounter heightened obstacle in accessing inclusive and disability accommodating services. Given that women and girls make up 44% of Gaza's population with disabilities. The absence of accessible shelters, clean water, and proper sanitation facilities significantly intensified their hardship and exposed them to greater risk. Israel's attack can be considered reproductive violence, a phenomenon affecting or aimed at the victim's reproductive system, and is a distinct manifestation of gender-based violence. While it may overlap with forms of sexual violence, this distinction is necessary to capture broader experience and address specific harms. Simply put, sexual violence violates the right to choose whether and how to engage in sexual activity, while reproductive violence violates the right to decide whether, how, and under what circumstances to reproduce. These actions must not be dismissed as mere collateral consequences of conflict, but rather understood as deliberate measures targeting the Palestinian population in Gaza. While these atrocities affect both women and men, as I mentioned before, their impact is gendered and disproportionately affects women. The reproductive violence inflicted by Israel on Palestinian women, newborn babies, infants, and children could be qualified as acts of genocide under Article 2 of the Convention of the Prevention of Genocide, including imposing measures intended to prevent birth within a group. Some group of women here has termed these actions as reproductive genocide. But as I said before, it's a part of a larger process of erasure, describing them as policies, practices, and discourses that restrict, target, or diminish the life-giving capacities, choices, and health of communities rendered vulnerable by systemic military violence. Reproductive erasure not only affect short-term health outcomes, but also has long-term repercussions on the life chances and reproductive autonomy of Palestinian women and their communities. The prosecution of reproductive violence in Gaza will set a critical precedent for international justice. It never happened anywhere. I mean, in other contexts, we witnessed, for example, massive rape, the killing of women, the maiming of women, the capturing of women, but targeting, the whole elements of the reproductive cycle for Palestinian women. This is a precedent that it needs more attention. It is not just about legal accountability, it is about acknowledging and addressing the long-term generational impact of these crimes on Palestinian women and their communities. So this is one of the aspects I wanted to shed light on it, and how it's going to affect the demographic, the demographic percentage of Palestinian on their land. And of course, one of the main reasons for the ongoing onslaught on Palestinian is because starting from 2020, the Palestinian population in historic Palestine exceeded the number of Jews on the land of Palestine. The second aspect I would like to speak about is the cultural erasure. And here I brought some short videos to show. We can see in these videos the imagined fabricated culture by Jewish settlers in the West Bank to erase the Palestinian culture and pretend that it is theirs. And here we are talking about cultural elements like songs, music, like daily practice in the Palestinian family. So, for example, it is known that fertility rate for Palestinian women is higher than the fertility rate for Jewish women. We are talking about almost 3.2% fertility rate for Palestinian women, and we are talking about less than 1.5% for Jewish women. But if we look at settlers women, we can see that these settlers are making more babies. Now we can see settler families with women having 10, 11, 12, 13 children, imitating, or trying to exceed the fertility rate of Palestinian women. So the videos my colleague will show will shed some lights on these aspects of how culture and social practice are stolen and pretended to be, for the original settlers of Palestine. And these kind of films are used widely to convince Western Jews in the world that come to the authentic land of Palestine, of the Jewish homeland, and how people and women in particular are a harmonious part of the nature of the place. Can we show the first documentary, please, Hatun? Or if you allow me to share, I can share it from my
Ikram from the University of Manchester is leading on this, so she's going to share.
Okay, okay.
Give me a second, please. It's not supporting the format of the video, Dr. Islah. Do you want to try on your end to see if it works?
Can I, how can I share it?
If you look on top of the screen, just near the leave button, there is share. Can you see it?
Yeah, but okay. No, only meeting organizers and presenters can share.
Let me just change that quickly.
Okay.
Are you able to try now?
Yeah.
It should be fine.
Cannot display because there was a problem displaying the content. Why?
So the video format is not supported by Teams, I believe.
Let me try another way. No. Okay, so I will describe what was in the documentary. And in the first, let me, I will see it myself and describe to you. I will describe to you what I am seeing. Sorry, just 1 second. Okay. Well, okay, I can not display it, unfortunately. But basically, we are talking about in the first film, we are seeing a woman baking bread on fire in the nature. And of course, the bread looks horrible because it's not the way Palestinian women, do bake their bread. A woman dressed in a rather a veiled with a headscarf, a long skirt, long sleeves blouse, and holding a baby, another child holding her skirt, and baking bread and distributing food on her family under a tent. And this is because some settlers movement are trying to imitate the life of Palestinian Bedouins in the nature. I mean, living in clustered, communities, building, similar construction to Bedouins in tents, cooking on fire, or, in the nature, and kids are scattered in the nature to play around their family happily. Another video is presenting, some settler groups celebrating, they're celebrating a widow or doing some festivities. And in the video, they are playing traditional folkloric Palestinian music, folkloric dance, and musical Palestinian musical instruments, as theirs. So the issue here, after confiscating or pretending that Palestinian food and the way of cooking of falafel, of hummus, of tabbouleh, of many other, Palestinian traditional dishes are presented in many Western restaurants in the world as Jewish delicatessen. Now we are seeing another step further in confiscating, cultural elements like, as I said, music, dance, and mode of lives in the Palestinian family. This is to conclude that by targeting the reproductive health of Palestinian women and confiscating or pretending that Palestinian culture and way of life are the authentic way of life of Jewish settlers in Palestine, beside the changing of the names of all Palestinian water sources, mountains, streets, districts, cities, villages, all are given so-called ancient Hebrew names. So the purpose here in front of us is to have a comprehensive process of erasure at all levels, to erase the Palestinian as a race and as also a culture. And I will stop here, and if you have any questions or comments, I will be more than happy to answer any points. Thank you very much.
Unmute Hatun. Hatun, you are muted. In that case, let me thank Professor Islah Jad until Hatun can unmute herself. This is really a rich lecture that you have given us, an eye-opener for many of us, and we will now take questions from the audience. Thank you so much, Professor Islah. It's an honor meeting you for the first time and listening to your very enlightening lecture. Thank you.
Yeah, I thank you again. Now I'm unmuted. Yeah, please, anybody raised their hands? I would like to, if you may allow me, I would like to start by asking, I mean, of course, this picture that you have painted, Islah, is very gloomy and very dark, and we feel very paralyzed looking at the scale and the long thought that Israelis had for planning all of this vicious or diabolic way of transferring the lives of Palestinians in this fashion. The question, of course, is how do we, what should we do other than know all of what's happening? I mean, the knowledge of the scale of Israelis, or we know that there is no limit to what Israelis are doing and the Zionists are doing. Every time we discover that they have reached limits beyond the previous limits, which is just making us I don't know. It's the words just can't express what we feel at the moment of weakness and of being idols. So, in your perspective, or in your from your position, what do you think that we need to do other than just listening and writing, or يعني telling your story? Unmute yourself.
Thank you, Dr. Hatoun. If we listen to what the Israeli Prime Minister keeps repeating, that he is following a messianic spiritual mission of enabling the Jewish people of the promised land for the Jews. So in his mind is that once he manages to achieve this historic, mission, the future generation of Israelis in Palestine will work to clean up the mess. It means that, through hiring PR companies, through the support of Western media, through the support of the US, administrations, these atrocities can be covered up. And, the most important thing is the physical presence and the control of the promised land by God to Jews on this land. So this is what he said publicly. So, to face, this kind of argument, it is very important to sanction Israel. I mean, the BDS movement started in 2005, made already a great progress all over the world. The hundreds of thousands and millions of people demonstrating and pressuring their governments in the Western countries is remarkable, in fact. And the wave of recognizing the state of Palestine comes as a result of this pressure. But recognition of Palestine, or the state of Palestine, recognizing a state that does not exist, and recognizing a state that cannot control its land and cannot control its people and cannot control its borders, it's pointless. In this regard, instead of celebrating the recognition and the feeling that we achieved something, no, the most important thing is that to continue the pressure to stop the erasure, or to stop the genocide, and to sanction Israel. They started already to feel the heat. in the academia, especially in the academia, many Israeli academics have been denied, participation in conferences, have been denied to, to publish in journals, to be invited in seminars, etc. So this is very important to treat Israel and Israelis, Israel as a pariah state, and to sanction exactly as it happened in South Africa to dismantle, the white supremacist practice of white South Africa. This is the stage where we have to intensify the isolation of the Israelis and to sanction their presence. And we are hearing lots of stories that sanction their presence in restaurants, in cafes, in cinemas, etc. So we started to see voices, whether in Hollywood, Hollywood, or in the media, or in the academia, to sanction the practice, the racist practice, and settler colonial violence practiced by the actual government in Israel. And here I have to say something, that if we see lots of demonstrations in Israel, these demonstrations, they asked first for the release of the Israeli hostages. It is not about stopping the war. Still, the majority of the Israeli society is supporting the actual genocide practiced by the Israeli right-wing government. So the majority, the mainstream, still support this policy, and they are not taking, stand against it, or trying to dismantle the actual Israeli government.
Thank you very much.
BDS, boycott, divestment, and sanctions are the most crucial tools now to sanction the state of Israel.
Thank you very much indeed. Any questions from the audience? Anyone wants to ask a question on any aspect? Mulki Sharmani has a question. تفضلي, please go ahead. Can you unmute her, Ikram?
Yeah, تفضلي دكتورة ملكي. Dr. Mulki is from Helsinki University.
Dr. Mulki, you are muted. Can you please unmute? I think she's having issues unmuting.
She's unmuted. Okay.
No, she's muted again.
Oh.
I don't know what's happening. Maybe she can type the question in the chat.
Ikram,
can you try again, Dr. Mulki? Because I can see that you have access, so you can unmute.
You can unmute from the top. Yeah, from here.
If not, we can see if you could write the question in the chat, we can read it.
I think it's better to listen to. Is there?
But what if we can't listen? Then it's better to read it and ask it.
Yeah. Okay.
So it isn't muted on our part, so.
I know, but she can't unmute.
If she can unmute the mic from, up on the screen.
Yeah, it is where I succeeded in unmuting myself.
She's having trouble unmuting.
Yeah.
Dr. Mulki, there is a mic button near the leave button on the top of the screen. If you can just press that, it should be able to mute you. Alternatively, as Zahia suggested, you can type your question on the chat.
She's typing, I think.
Maybe I could take the opportunity while she's typing to ask a question. I mean, what I have personally seen is in terms of cultural resistance, how women, wherever there is conflict, they are that kind of the hub of cultural resistance. And some movies, yeah, I remember, for example, Wedding in Galilee and other movies have really portrayed women leading cultural resistance. Could you tell us a little bit about that, Professor Islah?
Yeah, well, one of the reasons, why the Israelis are targeting particularly women by this policy of, by erasing, or eliminating women, is because women, historically speaking, they were the transmittant of Palestinian culture, through storytelling, through the way they raised their kids, through songs, through poems, through preserving Palestinian dress. We have a very rich dress code culture in Palestine. You can identify a woman from which particular region in Palestine from her dress. If she is from the south or from the coastal area or from the mountain, or from Jerusalem, from Jaffa, from Gaza, etc. So women played crucial role in preserving and inheriting the practice of embroidery and the preservation of their dress code to their girls. It is not used as it was before. I mean, before it was used in daily practice. Now it is basically used in weddings. So you have a whole night before the wedding day, for example. In a day we call it the henna day. In this henna day, women dye their hands with henna, and they display in a very beautiful parade their dresses. And each one coming from a different area. So this is a sacred practice before wedding. Yes, it is not used on daily basis as before, but through this henna day, it is preserved. Besides that, also, if we look back at, the year after the first Nakba in 1948, women were crucial in re-knitting the social fabric of the Palestinian society. I mean, women, collected, lost children in the streets who lost their families or homes. We see that, and we saw this time lots of societies have been emerged to host orphans, to host disabled, to host elderly, to host sick people, to provide education, and to rebuild again the Palestinian social fabric, traumatized by the expulsion of Palestinians in 1948. This might explain the continuous displacement practiced by the Israelis. They don't let any group of people or any community to settle in one place. So you have, for example, now families have been ordered to be displaced 10 or 15 times. Once they got settled and built, you know, community of tents after losing their homes, they are ordered again to leave and to go to another area, and or a safe designated safe area. And of course, we see, for example, when people start to move from one place to the other, they are targeted in the actual place of residence. They are targeted on the way, you know, to a new place. And once they reach a new area to get settled, also they target these areas. And if we follow the news now, for example, today they announced that the Israeli achieved 184, they destroyed 184 points. And when we look at these points, we are talking about, you know, shelters, you know, where people are getting together in, for example, UNRWA schools, or in health clinics, or around the hospitals, or around mosques. They have been all destroyed. You know, any place to host, you know, people to find shelter, it have been destroyed. So this is basically to prevent people from tying, you know, connections. Because when you are in a community, you know your neighbors, you know your extended family, but urging people to be displaced all the time, it's basically to, you know, to destroy and to break these social ties. And, you know, of course, we have some also few collaborators working with the Israelis that they spread, for example, violence. They could rape women. They could, you know, do some atrocities as if it's coming from the people because they don't know each other. You see? So this is to make the whole system, or the value system, and the community ethics that used to prevail before, to get it, to break it down. And of course, people become fearing from one another, and destroy the concept of having a community that is protected, or protecting its members.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Professor.
Dr. Islah, we have now, Mulki has written has put her question in writing. She has two questions. First of all, she said that she's happy to see you again, despite these dark days and times. So her question is regarding the speeches of Israeli Prime Minister. She says how he is framing this as a clash of civilizations, and also explaining the support for Palestine in the Western context as the left appeasing Islamist voices in these countries. For your voice, your thoughts on this discourse and how to counter it. And then I'll ask you the second one.
Well, maybe I mentioned quickly at the very beginning when I said that one of the pillars that is used by the Israeli, not only by Netanyahu, but also by all Zionist theoreticians, you know, from the 20s and 30s until now, in which Israel is always portrayed as the hub of civilization, amid a very barbaric and savage area, you know. So Netanyahu keeps emphasizing this discourse over and over again. He always used, you know, that the kingdom of goodness against the kingdom of evil, and that I am protecting Western values, that Israel, the only oasis of democracy in the barbaric Middle East. The defense Israeli minister at the beginning of the war in October 2023, he treated us, or he mentioned that we are human animals, and that 7th of October is an act of barbarism by human animals, and they will be treated as human animals. So this is to, of course, to give a pretext to sanction all the community by depriving them from food, water, shelters, and to unleash, the very horrible practice of violence by the Israeli army. In this kind of discourse, women are portrayed as another pillar of barbarity. For example, I remember myself always confirming, this is when during the first uprising, we thought that the Israeli practice when they used to kill children, and in the first uprising we were just demonstrating, and it was a very peaceful kind of resistance, popular resistance against the presence of the Israeli occupation army. So hundreds of Palestinians, they lost their lives. We are talking about more than 2,000 that have been killed during the first uprising. And we thought that convincing or showing our reality on the ground to Israeli women will prevent this violence from happening. So we were visiting kibbutz and settlements in Israel, talking about the conditions of our children and how the Israeli closed all schools for 2.5 years, how universities were closed for 4 years. We were not allowed even to have any form of what we called it popular education that, I used to host, for example, kids from the neighborhood to teach them social science or history. Another woman will teach them mathematics or English, etc. So the army was on the corners of the streets to prevent the kids from going to our homes to get some education, during the closure of all the schools, even kindergartens, for 2.5 years. So when we used to do this, meetings with Israeli women, we were always over and over again asked, how come you leave your kids in the streets to be killed by our army? So the answer that these kids are in the streets because the army closed their schools, and the streets is their playground. The question is why the army is in the streets where the kids are playing, and if a child saw a soldier and threw a stone, that the kid will receive a bullet instead of this little stone he throws on the soldiers. So this is to say that the dehumanization of Palestinian women was not recently, during this genocide. It's from the very beginning that, that we are not normal mothers. Normal mothers protect their children. They don't leave the children in the streets. They teach them music, songs, and they don't teach them how to throw stones, And this is to say this is to say that how disconnected they are from our daily reality, and how they disconnected from asking their kids when they come back from their military service, how many Palestinians did you kill today? They are not interested to know And I said, sometimes some Israelis said that we don't know. I said, why you don't know? It's not an excuse. You brag about the most democratic press in the world. You have freedom of expression. You have, so many channels of TV exposing all sorts of policies. You have libraries, you have universities, why don't you know? Because they do not want to know. Not because they don't know, no, they do not want to know. Exactly as Nazi Germany, when the majority of Germans did not want to know about, the practice of their Nazi government at that time.
Thank you, Islah. The second question, we have 5 minutes left, actually. So quickly, she said that since the genocide, we have seen diverse acts of resistance, particularly sharing of Palestinian art, culture, history. She's asking you any advice for us on how systematically support those acts of resistance, and also how to follow the disseminate more widely.
I think, as I said before, it's very important to sanction Israel and also give plenty of space for Palestinian voices. Uh, because there are lots of distortions, not as before, because the Palestinian blood was so intense and so flagrant, to have business as usual with the Israeli propaganda. But however, you have lots of campaigns on social media. You have to follow it. There are lots of documentaries, lots of news agencies amplify the Palestinian voice as much as you can. And of course, you need to fight back, the Israeli still strong propaganda and disseminate the truth.
Thank you. Ikram, could you
Yes, we
pass
can
the
take, I
question of
think,
Hannah?
one final question from Hannah. Are there any steps taken to prosecute the Israeli occupation for violating the safety and security of women and children, other than the efforts being made at the International Criminal Court? And also, are there any international entities concerned with women's and children's rights involved in this matter?
Of course, we rely on civil society organizations in all the world, to disseminate, as I said, to amplify the Palestinian voice. But to start with, if we, for example, take the example of UN Women organization, the stand of the UN Women at the beginning was horrible. They brought up the Israeli propaganda about raping Israeli women and killing babies and burning them alive, and all the crap used to be repeated by the American leaders. Till now, Trump, for example, repeats these lies. So they took for granted the Israeli propaganda machine and issued reports that we were very, very keen to dismantle this kind of reports that were not based on any evidence, no evidence of whatsoever, just what was repeated by the Israeli propaganda. And when they talked about raped women, we asked them, we issued statements against UN Women, we asked for to have meetings with them, and we said, give us one name, or just one name of any woman raped, during October 7. And of course, they couldn't present any names. And the only evidence, was that one of the women the civil defense people rescued was naked from, down. That's it. Maybe she was in the toilet, for example. And it's many writings wrote about how guerrilla fighters during combat, they don't think about, rape unless it is engineered policy by their leaders to practice, as in the case of Yugoslavia, or in some African countries, etc., on Burundi, for example. But in our area, in the Palestinian context, this kind of practice is not known at all. And if it was practiced by the Israeli Haganah forces before 48 against Palestinian women and girls. So we had to fight back this kind of discourse that repeated the Israeli propaganda. And as I said, it is very important to be linked to grassroots organizations that take its information from Palestinian sources instead of repeating the Israeli propaganda, because now many Israeli politicians see how Israel is becoming a pariah state, and they always call for more efforts to whiten, and to whitewash the image of the state of Israel that was stand by this war against the Palestinians. So they still rely on the propaganda that it will remove the effects of what happened in Gaza and now also in the West Bank.
Thank you very much indeed, Professor Islah. There's a thank you in the chat from Ahmed Qaisra, saying that he's calling this presentation as absolutely fascinating and that taught him too much or so much. Keep actually your marvelous work. In fact, Professor Islah, what you are doing here is an act of resistance. It's really speaking for those who cannot speak, and actually dissipating a lot of the fogginess that some media are circulating. And it's really good to know these truths from the field. We are really privileged to have you with us today, speaking to us the truth firsthand and not secondhand. And this is what this network is trying to do, is really to have Arab Muslim women speak from the field about what really matters. Thank you so much. I would like to thank the organizing committee, Dr. Ikram, Dr. Bayan. They have been really behind the scene trying to do their best. And I would like to thank wholeheartedly the audience, the members who have attended today. I was so happy to see a very faithful member from the first webinars, Dr. Elena Maestri. So thank you very much, and stay with us. We're going to connect with you and let you know what's happening in a month's time and who is the speaker, the next speaker. I wish you well, Dr. Islah, and really pray for things to get better. Thank you all, and hope to see you again.
Thank you very much, Dr. Islah.
Thank you. Thank you. Goodbye.